CNN senior political analyst and senior editor at The Atlantic, Ron Brownstein. Ron, good to see you. Here we are, just a few days before this debate. The last one we had led to unprecedented change in this race.
Yeah.
Walk us through what you think is at stake this time.
You know, when you talk to political scientists or political operatives, the general view is that debates usually don't matter that much, except that sometimes they matter enormously. I was talking to one Democratic consultant this week who said that he was once in a meeting with some of the party's leading kind of number crunchers, what he called the quants who work on election modeling, and they inputted all of this data to try to determine when a presidential debate has mattered versus when it has not, and basically found there's no real way to predict. Having said that, I think we can pretty safely predict that this one is going to matter, largely because voters are still pretty shallow in their impressions of Vice President Harris. She has made a very positive first impression. Her favorable, unfavorable rating is better than Biden's, better than Trump's, better than anybody on either ticket at this point, but those impressions are still pretty shallow. So in many ways, this is as much a job interview for her with this big, broad audience that she's going to have as it is a debate and encounter with the former president.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that former Secretary of State and, of course, former candidate for President Hillary Clinton, who debated Trump, told the New York Times Harris should not be baited. She should bait him. Further on in that piece, they had advisors telling Trump, be happy, Trump. Don't lose your cool. Do you think all of that is good advice on both sides?
Yeah, first of all, when as we said, debates haven't always mattered. Many of them have kind of faded away as soon as they were over. But when they have mattered, it's usually been because they reveal something about the character and the capacity of the candidates, more than one side winning an issue argument. Think of Ronald Reagan with There You Go Again in 1980 and kind of dispelling the idea of him as a scary warmonger, or George H.W. Bush checking his watch against Bill Clinton and Ross Perot in 92 and kind of confirming the idea that he essentially had run out of energy and out of time. And I think that is the key for Harris here. I mean, she has projected a kind of both a competence and an energy and a forward-looking message, less so, focusing on sharp issue distinctions with Trump, more about turning the page on the Trump era. And, Biden immolated in that debate, but Trump, as it went on, became increasingly incoherent himself. So there is an opportunity for her to basically embody the message that she represents the future, and he is, we're not going back, as they say, the past.
And before we let you go, we don't have a ton of time, but we did release this new polling this week on a number of battleground states. What were your takeaways? What did you learn from those numbers?
Well, the basic story before Biden left the race was that he was largely holding his 2020 support among white voters, and his position had eroded because he had lost so much ground with non-white voters, Black and Hispanic men in particular. Look at those numbers. You can see that Harris is very close to the winning numbers that Biden put up in 2020 among white voters in the key swing states, except for Arizona, where CNN has her losing some ground. She may be a little below where he was with non-college whites, but a little better with college whites. She's improved a lot among those non-white voters, but still is not back to where she was. And that means her pathway is still more secure through the former blue wall states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin in all likelihood than it is through the Southwest states. She looks like she's in a pretty strong position in both Michigan and Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, or the combination of Georgia and Nevada, look like the tipping point in this election. And boy, when I look at those numbers, we go back to where we were a month ago. It was as good a campaigner as Tim Walz is. It was a very big gamble not to pick the popular governor of Pennsylvania as your running mate, looking at the possibility of Pennsylvania being the tipping point state.
It's just so close, according to these polls in Pennsylvania, as it so often has been in these recent cycles. Ron Brownstein, thank you so much for your time.